Marci served as a co-chair for Governor Sebelius's Rural Life Task Force and was named Distinguished Kansan of the Year in 2005. Marci and assistant WenDee Rowe work daily focusing on the needs of volunteer-led communities. Let's give Marci a warm welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, it's great to be here with you. When I was in school, this was an old gym. But this is what I want to tell you about when I was in high school. We didn't have girls basketball. And I loved playing basketball. So finally, after a lot of writing the principals in the league and getting in trouble for it, that was just part of the reason. We finally got girls basketball in 1972, I think. So all of you who currently play, I'm so glad to see you have uniforms that are actual uniforms and not polyester shorts with knee socks that we had to wear. And I'm glad to see where it's come. So that's all great. So the introduction pretty much said everything that I'd like to say. I have two parts to today's presentation, and it's the second part I'm looking forward to. But I do want to say just a little bit about what happened to this alumnus who graduated in 1974 in a class of 37. I went to Fort Hays for a year, but then wanted to play an even better brand of basketball and transferred to Kansas University to play for Marion, Washington, play softball for Sharon Drysdale. Proud to say Lynette Woodard was a teammate of mine, but after a number of injuries, I could no longer compete. So I felt like I had to leave the area. It's sort of like being an alcoholic. You can't be around that environment anymore. So without being able to do something I really loved and watching my friends do it, I thought of everywhere in the United States where I knew one person. And a person that might let me live with them for just a little bit till I got going. And that person was in Madison, Wisconsin. So I ended up moving there and did a lot of things. I had gone through 9 different majors in college. I just couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. And finally ended up with a degree in radio, TV, film. But that was my last major at the time I was graduating, so I went with that. But I finally figured out in Wisconsin that I wanted to be a guidance counselor. So I went through the master's program and got a degree in counseling and guidance. I also worked in the University of Wisconsin Women's Athletic Department, Sports Information. I think I'll tell you guys this story. I worked out in the weight room, and at one point I was bent over doing curls, and a barbell was up against a post, and it fell on my head. And that changed my life. I'll come back to that, but I moved to Pennsylvania, near the Philadelphia area, became an elementary guidance counselor. I was no longer able to coach or compete, so I became a guidance counselor, and I absolutely loved working with young kids. But my episodes from this hit to the head with the barbell got worse and worse, and I finally couldn't work. And I had to move home to Kansas to live with my mom and dad. And at first, that was a real blow to me. But in the end, that was the best thing that ever happened to me, that blow to the head. The only job I could hold was with my dad. And on my good days, we'd drive around the state, and we ended up writing a Kansas Guidebook. And that was the start of my education about this state. I would ask my dad all these questions. What's this? Why do they do that? Why is a fence post like that? What's that electric pole for? What about this crop? And he taught me so much. There were 2 things that we noticed. The Kansans didn't know their own state very well, and that small towns, there were some small towns that had really good things going on, but there was no way to share it with other small towns. So we formed the Kansas Sampler Foundation to educate Kansans about Kansas and work with small towns. And I started to see small towns like I saw elementary students. They had self-esteem issues. They needed someone to cheer for them. They needed someone to listen and be there for them. They needed someone to pull them up. And so that's what the Kansas Sampler Foundation started to do. Fast forward a little bit, from 2012 to 2016, WenDee, this was her first time, but we went to every incorporated city in Kansas. There's 626 incorporated cities. Inman's population is about 1,100. Half of the cities in Kansas have less than a 400 population. And 3/4 of the cities in Kansas have a population of 1,500 or less. And those are volunteer-led communities who don't have anyone paid to figure out how to keep the town alive and thriving. Just like Inman. We don't have a community development director. We don't have a paid chamber. It's all on the shoulders of volunteers who do great work to put on events and keep the town going. But as I've done all this since 1990, I have just fallen in love with this state. Meeting the people, seeing the things there are to see and do. And we've written guidebooks. My sister, Liz, is the designer of the guidebooks. They look really great because she's great at what she does. And we couldn't even do these guidebooks without her because I get the sister rate, which is really good. That's the first half of what I've wanted to tell you today, that I've had a interesting route coming back to Kansas, and I love Kansas. One more thing I want to work in there. One of my favorite things to do is working with people who are 21 to 39 and rural by choice. And I want you to know there's a lot of young people moving back to rural communities. And there's a whole talk we could do about what it feels like to move back to a small town. But I want you to know there's a lot of rural by choice young people out there. And should Stuco or anybody ever want to have a small group discussion about being rural by choice and what that means and how to go forward with that, I'm all in. I'd love to be there to hear what you have to say. With those young people, we want to elevate, empower, engage, and connect them. But here's the reason we chose today to be here. I don't know if you know it, but today is Kansas Day, January 29. 159 years ago, President James Buchanan signed a bill that brought Kansas into the Union as a free state. And we had a very tumultuous years before that during the Bleeding Kansas time to become a free state. Our history, in fact, it's probably true that the Civil War started in Kansas with roots in Kansas over the debate, slave state, free state. But here's an even more exciting reason why we're here today. So WenDee and I wrote all these guidebooks. We do programs all over the state, and our mission, the mission of the Sampler Foundation, is to preserve and sustain rural culture. We want to do anything we can to help people be proud of living in this state and encourage them to get to know this state and get out around and see it. And one way to do that is to use this handy-dandy guidebook. We found 4,500 things to see and do that we put in this guidebook. Of 480 pages, there's 1,600 pictures. There's over 800 locally owned restaurants. And I'm telling you, this state is cool. From the zip lines you could find to the highest point in the state to hike to the top to. The Shamrock Cafe is one of my favorite places. Bleeding Kansas, Pony Express, Santa Fe Trail, Oregon Trail. Brown versus Board. The history is tremendous. And here is the reason why we are here today. We want to give each one of you a Kansas Guidebook. And the reason we want to give this to you, we want you to keep it forever. We want you to use it. We want you to get out there and see Kansas. We want you to mark it up. I want you to, when you go to a cafe, get the autograph of a waitress. When you go somewhere, mark the date beside this where you go. You know what? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to have the Stuco folks help us hand out these books real quick. And then we're going to just talk to you with a few remaining minutes of how you can use this as a workbook to help you know Kansas and love Kansas. Let's get these books handed out as fast as we can. I don't care if there's 4 in your family, you each get a book, but remember to put your name in the book so your siblings or your mom or your aunt and uncle don't steal it.
Put your hand up if you don't have one. They got it already. Got it. Yep.
Teachers and students. Thank you, helpers. Okay. All right. Here's a couple of things. People just cannot believe that there's enough things to see and do in the state to have 480 pages. But this, I just want to tell you why there could be 480 pages. If you have the explorer spirit, you will love getting around this state. If you're just a straight tourist and you need a mountain or an ocean to make you happy, then you may not really enjoy this. But I have a feeling that this group right here, because you're growing up in a small town, you'll know how to be explorers. The book is done in 6 different regions, and there's a great index in the back. But the South Central, will someone look up on the index where Inman is?
340.
Thank you, Peter. 340? 340. But look anywhere you want. You guys, it would be my delight to have you email about places that you've gone because maybe you used the guidebook to help get you there. I don't know if you know that this state is not flat. We have the Flint Hills, we have the Smoky Hills, we have the Glacial Hills, we have a roller coaster hill near Soldier, Kansas. We have, yes, has anyone been to the top of Mount Sunflower? We've got one. You trained well then. It's located in Wallace County in Ed Harold's pasture. And it's 4,039 feet above sea level, and it'll take all the training you can do to get yourself to the top of Mount Sunflower, and I hope you can do it someday. Or you can hit a golf ball like WenDee did almost into Colorado. But I don't think they always have golf. So, I know our time is winding down. Oh, not so bad. Huh. You guys, I've done this in backwards order, but I still want to do this because we have some time. If you would all stand up. I want to figure something out. I was going to do something clever and give you the guidebook through this game, but I forgot, so we're going to do it this way. I'm going to name a place in Kansas. If you've not been there, you have to sit down and you're out of the game. That's all it is. So we're going to find out who are our best Kansas explorers right here. If you've ever been to Maxwell Wildlife Refuge and gone on a buffalo tram tour, remain standing. Otherwise, you are out of the game. But that could be a good field trip, probably. Now, once you're down, you can't get back up. So you're out of the game. For those of you still standing, if you've ever been to Abilene to the Presidential Museum for our president, Dwight Eisenhower, remain standing. Otherwise, sit down. If you've ever been to Fort Larned, which is a National Historic Site in Pawnee County, remain standing. Folks, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left. Okay. If you've ever been to the Home on the Range cabin, remain standing. Oh, you 5, stand back up. Everybody sat down. If you've eaten a little burger at the Cozy Inn in Salina and smelled like it for 24 hours, remain standing. We have 3 left, is that right? Okay. 3, got 2 in the back. If you've ever seen Big Brutus, we have our winner, folks. So, no, that's okay. You get the satisfaction of being a winner in today's game. What's your name? Michaela, congratulations. Okay, did you find Inman? Did you all know about Sam's grave? Yeah. Well, I think that that's probably all I have to say. We 3 just really hope. Oh no, we have one more thing, WenDee. You guys, I hope you don't mind, but we've asked everyone around the state today to post singing Home on the Range. So if you wouldn't mind of WenDee Facebooking you, the first verse and the first chorus. And I'd like Peter and Nick and any other good singer to be up here and help lead us. I need 5 people. 5 people up here to help sing. All right. Really? There's not 2 girls? Come on, women. Okay, do you guys know the words? Oh, give me a... Now, hold on. WenDee, are you ready? Okay, is this going live? Yeah? Okay, folks, you are live around the state. From Inman High School. Here's senior high. Everybody wave high. Would you two? All right, lead it. Let's do it with vigor. Home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. Home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the sky The cheers afterward were maybe even a little better than the song, but if you sing that every year, you're going to get so good. So, I'm going to turn the mic back over to your principal, but I hope you love this book. We make everybody else buy it. But you guys, we wanted our Inman neighbors to be able to have this book and to use it. And hopefully your teachers will have you bring it back each year for some kind of using it as a workbook. But here's to you, here's to Kansas. Let's make it a great state. And thank you.
Well, let's keep doing that. If you think about the amount of money involved with each book, it's not a cheap donation. So thank you very much. Very generous of you to do that for us, for our students and our staff. And that's district-wide, so that's very generous. Thank you for sharing your time with us today and being here. Anybody got the time? 11:25 yet?
16.
Okay, so you've got about 9 minutes until lunch, so we'll dismiss. Let's start here, just so we don't have chaos here. Let's go juniors and seniors. You guys can leave first. Freshmen, sophomores.